Oops. Okay, folks. Oops, there we go. Torah portion, Metzorah. We continue with the fifth reading. Okay, welcome, folks. To you. Oh. Two for the price of one.
You got to get your view counts up.
Exactly. I know I have a problem here. Oh, that's Rambam. Anybody good with computers here? See, I can't move this bar. See this bar?
Press OK. Yeah.
No, that means okay to leave meeting.
No, that if you push that.
Ah, okay. The secrets have been revealed. Yeah, there we go. Is Chumash Rashi up here?
Yep.
Okay. We need today's. That's okay. There we go. Beautiful. We continue. Fifth reading in Vayikra of chapter 14, verse 54. Zayis HaTorah. This is the law. This is the Torah. Chol nega tzaras ulanesek. For every nega, lesion or affliction, of tzaras, lanesek, of an esek, or the tzaras habeged velabayis, and also for the tzaras of the garment, beged is a garment, a bias, and for the home, right? Well, let's say the sapachas, the beheres, and giving a review of all the different ones that we mentioned in the very beginning from last week's parsha, right? And this week. Se'es, and for a se'es, and sapachas, and a sapachas, and a beheres. Lahayres b'yom hatameh, that it should be lahayres, means it translates here to render a decision. Hayra comes from like guidance, right? Of guidance on the day of b'yom hatameh, in the day the person is impure, of b'yom tahar, and the day of the cleanliness. Zais Teiras HaTzaras. This is the law of the Tzaras. Rashi. L'hayres b'yom hatameh. Right, to render on the day of impurity. Eze yom mitaharei. In other words, which day is going to make him pure and clean again? Eze yom tumas mitatamei. And which day will render him unclean, right? Finished. That's it. Now we're going to go into other laws of impurity. We're finished with Tzaras. Imagine if it's a parsha and a half, right? Last week, almost the entire, just the beginning, right? First, maybe 7, 8 verses, and the rest was on Tzaras. And now, 4 aliyahs and part of the 5th aliyah. And now we go to other kinds of impurities.
But Nesek was a Taras that was under like skin, hair, right?
Nesek had to do with the hair, yes, okay. Yes. Correct them all. Okay. Huh? Yeah. And Hashem spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying, Dabru b'nei Yisrael. Yeah. So it's interesting over here. I'm wondering if this means he spoke to Moshe to tell to Aaron, or did he speak to Moshe and Aaron together? Because it says Dabru, because in the second verse it says speak in plural to the children of Israel. Well, it sounds to me as if this was said to Aaron together with him.
It's weird because these are different, because here it says spoke to Moshe to speak to Aaron. Whereas here
so that was my question, and there it's translating it here it didn't translate it with that.
Yeah.
There it's giving, right. Yeah. And Rashi doesn't seem to deal with it. Rashi's not dealing with it, but okay, that's it could be, and something that we forgot, or I forgot, that in previous Rashi did explain this already. But my question is Dabru, that they shall speak. Maybe they, because in plural, because after he teaches Ara, and so now he can also teach Bnei Israel, which I'm not clear on that. Okay, to the children of Israel, and say to them, Ish, a man, when he will have a discharge from his flesh, the discharge is unclean. Let's see, Rashi, what's this speaking about? When he will have a discharge, I might think Zov that he had a discharge mikol makam from any place on his body. Tell me it will be impure. Talmud Leimer, the Torah comes to teach us otherwise. I mean, Metzorah has to come from his flesh. Not all of his flesh. Once the Torah makes it, the verse is making a distinction between flesh from a discharge renders a man impure, and flesh from which the discharge does not render a person impure. I guess that's coming up. Okay. Zachisi ladin, I have the right to use the reasoning to determine which part of the body the discharge renders one impure. Therefore, I reason as follows, Rashi says. Time Bazav, the Torah made a man who had a discharge impure, Time Bazava, and a woman that she has a discharge that makes her impure. My Zava, just as regard to a Zava, her impurity came from a discharge from Malkaim. She mitame to maskala, from which she becomes impure with a lesser impurity of nida, right? People make a mistake that Zav is not a nida. Nida means a woman, right, that is impure from a menstrual cycle, exactly, from blood from the menstrual cycle. So mitamach to machamura, so she becomes impure with a more severe impurity, ziva, which is the impurity of ziva. So afazav, so too with regard to the man and his discharge. Mimokam, it has to be a discharge from a place shemitama to makala, where there's where he becomes impure with a lesser impurity, keri, which is an emission of semen, mitama to machamura. And this makes him and becomes impure with this more severe impurity, ziva, of the zav. In other words, we're comparing it to the woman, right? The woman, she is there, the discharge is coming from her uterus, right? That's what it refers to, from the nida and the zava. Right. So him too, it's also a discharge. It comes from in other words, from the where the semen would come out. But it's not semen, it's a different kind of discharge. Okay.
But the Zava, I understand the woman becomes Nida when the menstrual cycle is, but what is Zava? That's her state of being?
No, Zava is an unusual discharge, not in a time of menstrual cycle. If it's menstrual cycle, then it's nida. Okay, so this is right. This is a different type of that it's not in that time period. It's we learn in Rambam. It's like the 11 days after the menstrual cycle, after the clean period. So it's like after 7 days, 11 days.
Yeah.
Which, in other words, is not a time of menstrual cycle. So it's a different kind of discharge. It's a more stringent one because it's not the normal cycle.
But it's from the same place.
It's from the same place, exactly. Okay, we're not clear exactly what it means in the physical reality. And halacha brings the two together in rabbinic law. It brings the two things together as we see in the Rambam, right? But here we're learning the way it is in a biblical, right? And so Nida and Zav are two different things. So Zayva Tame, his discharge is impure. Limit al Atipa, this teaches about the droplet of the discharge, Shihi Metama, that's what it transmits impurity, right? That which comes in contact with, or that which bears its weight. Zoiv, the discharge. Oops, a second. The discharge that we're talking about, Daim is similar lemei betzek shel sa'irim, of water which exudes from dough made of barley. V'dochin, it's thin. V'daima, and similar leloiven beitza, to the white of an egg, hamuzeres, which became spoiled and cannot be fertilized. Shivchas zera kosher, semen is not as thin, it's thicker. Kiloiven beitza, like the white of an egg. So this is the white of the egg that became spoiled, as opposed to white of the egg that is not. She'ena muzeres, and that's not spoiled, it can be fertilized. So it's something different. It's something different.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a seminal discharge, even though it's coming a discharge from the same place. Okay. 3. Says yes.
Zakisiladin, I'm entitled to reason. It's very strange, no? Rashi says, I'm entitled to reason. I'm not quoting you a Medrash, I'm not quoting you from a Gemara, I'm not quoting you but I'm entitled to reason.
Because the way I understand it is because he's simple meaning of the text, so he's just reasoning it out as opposed to taking it from somewhere.
Saying it's his chiddush. I'm entitled to reason, says, this is my chiddush.
Zachisi ledin, I mean, it's like I merited to judge, to make the determination. Seemingly, I that's what it seems to say. Yeah, so that's a good question because do we
see that in Rashi, and that Rashi says other place,
first time I remember it. Yeah. First time I remember it. Good question. That's interesting language. But does that mean that it's not in any medrash or not in the Gemara? That's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like. It sounds funny because
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah. I know. I have to see. Maybe the Rebbe speaks on it. Good question. Okay. 3. Says to and this shall be the nature of the tuma, of the impurity in this discharge. Rar b'sarai, flesh runs as zayvay of the discharge. Hichtim b'sarai, or his flesh became hichtim, plugged mizayvay from the discharge to masai, it is impure. Let's see Rashi in 3. Rar runs, lashon rear, a spittle, which means shezav b'sarai as zayvay, that the flesh discharges his discharge, like a spittle. That comes out of the body clear. Or whether the flesh is stopped up, and therefore it comes out thick. The seisim is pi ha'ama, and clogs the opening of the male organ. The nistam b'sare, and the flesh becomes clogged from the droplet of the discharge. That's a simple meaning. Midrashay, its expounded meaning is mana al-kasav harishain. The first preceding verse counts riyas shtaim, 2 perceptions of discharge, v'karatame, and he calls it impure. Shenemar zav mibsare, discharge from his flesh, v'zayva, and his discharge. In other words, there are two discharges. Tame, person's impure. Mana kasav hasheni. This second verse, our verse, right, counts riyas shalosh, three perceptions of discharge. V'karatame, and calls it impure. Shenemar, as it says to Moshe zayva, his impurity through his discharge, whether the flesh runs with the discharge, or whether the flesh is stopped up because of the discharge. And to Masa here, then it becomes impure. How ketam? In other words, is it you have to see two discharges according to the previous verse? Or that's midrash, remember, right? The fact, because simple meaning is speaking about different cases. The midrashic meaning is that it means two discharges. Our verse is speaking in three discharges. So how's that possible? Shtaim latuma, two discharges are necessary for impurity. She says maskiko lekarbon. The third means he has to bring an offering. Others, if you're impure from the zov discharge, if you saw it twice in the 11 days, right? So then you're impure, or 2 days in a row, rather. Sorry, 2 days in a row. Then you're impure for 7 days, right? But you don't have to bring a sacrifice. If you see 3 days in a row, then you have to bring a sacrifice.
So one, you're not impure just by one.
One, you are actually impure, means up to 2, I think. Yeah, I mean, based on the Rambam.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
one you're,
1 to 2 is you're impure.
yeah,
3, you gotta bring an offering.
right. Because the Torah only told you, well, the question would be, yeah, actually, how do we know that from simple text is a good question. But we'll leave that for now. I was just based on what the Rambam said. Okay. Kol ha-mishkav asher yishkav alav. Any bedding upon which a person will lie upon, azav yitma, this person with a discharge, the person that lies on it becomes unclean. Likewise, any object, the kli is a vessel, some kind of object that a person will sit upon, yitma. In other words, if they have this discharge, right, they make now what they lie on, right, the bed or the couch or the chair that they're sitting on, they make it impure, right? They make it tummy, exactly. Rashi in 4. Kol mishkav, any bedding, a roy mishkav that's fitting for reclining, yochol, I might think that he transcends impurity, even that which is designated for another function. In other words, what if it's not meant for reclining and you happen to recline upon it, right? Right, it's not meant for reclining, but you recline on it. So I might think that you make it impure. Talmud Leimer, the verse tells us otherwise. Asher yishkab, that which you recline upon. Asher shochav loy nemar. It doesn't say upon that which the zav has reclined. Whether it's fitting or not, but the zav reclined on it. Doesn't, right? But it says asher yishkav. It's hard to the Hebrew. Yeah, just if it would have said asher shachav alav, that he reclined on it, it means he reclined, irrespective of whether it's something to recline upon. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Just the fact that he did it, that makes it impure. So but it says asher yishkav alav. It says that it makes it. There's an implication in the way it's written. That is reclinable upon.
Yeah, that it's designed.
He reclined on something that's reclinable. Meaning it has to be a bed, it has to be a couch, right? That is something reclinable. But if it's something that wasn't, then it wouldn't.
Some Sarah after they become Tomei.
Huh? Let's just follow what we're learning here. That's a good question, but that's not. I don't want to confuse what we're learning right now. Okay, that will come up. That will be coming up. Okay, so it has to be something reclinable. Yishkav. Yuchad Tami Lokach, that is something designated for that purpose. Yotzah Zeh, that includes the object, about which they say, to him who reclines upon it, Amid, get up from it, Venasim Elachtenu, so that we can do our work. Rather, it's something that's not made for that. Asher Yeshev, upon which he will sit. Yashav Lo Nemar, it doesn't say that he sat. Ella, Asher Yeshev Allah, upon which he sits. Yuchad Talmid Lekach, that is always designated for sitting, right? So it's got to be a chair. If you're using a crate that's not meant for sitting,
No.
then it could be used for sitting, but it's not, then he won't make it impure. Okay?
So even if he sits on a chair, it can become impure.
Not
Yeah,
even, not
yeah,
even,
yeah.
specifically. Reclining was one thing, and sitting is now another thing, right? But it's got to be on something that's meant for sitting. Okay? Now we're going to say what you asked, right? So now that person made it impure, right? That bed, right? Now another man comes and touches that bedding, right? They became impure. He has to immerse his garments, and he has to wash himself in water. Then he remains impure until the evening. Rashi in 5. A person who touches his bedding, limit ala mishkav. This teaches us about the bedding. Shechomer min amaga, that is more severe in impurity than transmitting through touching. Right? In other words, than the impurity of an object that has been touched by a zav. Shizeh, why? Because this bedding, Nasa avatuma, becomes a primary source of impurity, latama adam, that transmits the impurity to a man who in turn, latuma begadim, that transmits impurity to his clothing, right, while he is still in contact with them. But the touching of an object that has been touched, she'ena mishkav, that's not a bedding, ela vlada tuma, is only an offspring of tuma, ve'ena metama, ela ochlim, only transmits impurity to foods and liquids. And so again, let me explain. Someone who lies down, that bed becomes avatuma, which means a primary source of tuma. Av means a father. Yeah. A father can give birth, right? Right. As opposed to vlada tuma, which means the offspring of a birth, right? The offspring doesn't give birth, right? It's what it is, right? So by lying down, it becomes now a primary source of tuma that, as our verse now says, someone who touched it, that bedding, they become impure of their clothing and themselves, right? Yeah. But if you are a zav and you touch something, an object, right? And now someone else touches that object. They don't become impure. Only if food touches it.
Only if he touches food and then that person.
No, only if food touched that object.
Then the
food becomes impure. So it's less stringent. So we see that lying down is more stringent.
So
Okay.
If touching the person, that's the same thing as touching the bed.
Someone who is impure touches the person.
Touch a zav. You touch the bedding of a zav that you lay on, that's avatuma. What about the zav himself? He's also avatuma.
Yeah, he's for sure avatuma. Of course, whatever he touches. We're talking about what he.
But if you touch
No, but that for sure. He's avatuma. Yeah. We're talking about what he touched, though. Cannot impurify. So he touched the phone, right? And now that phone, another person touches it. They don't become impure. But if food touched it, they become impure. Right? Is that clear? The food becomes impure.
Yeah.
The food.
If someone ate the food, they become impure.
No. It doesn't have that power. No. Just if you're a kohen and you're pure now, you can't eat it. You could eat impure food. Yes. Breakfast can be impure if you're an Israelite or even a kohen who is not, it's not truma or it's not being used for service. Yeah. So then, preferably that the kohen wouldn't do that, but it can be. because it doesn't make him impure. Okay, it's all complicated stuff in Rambam.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're getting some of it here. Okay. Oh boy. Okay, we got to truck a bit. Anyone who touches the flesh of the man who has the zav, right, shall immerse his garments and himself in water, meaning a mikvah, and he remains unclean until the evening. So there we have the verse, it says it clearly. Now what happens? He spits. Is the spit of a person considered like the person? Well, let's see. The verse says the opposite. It says if the zav spits on a person, right?
Yeah.
Now, not nice, but that's not the point, right? He's got to teach us a law, right? Is the discharge, the spit of the person, like the person? Well, it says here you have to go and you have to go to the mikvah, and your clothes too. Rashi kiyar because of his arvenag aboy I say sharek mitamim b'masa. So he touches it, so he touches it or lifts it up without touching it from the saliva, he becomes impure. So he takes a Kleenex and picked up, and he picked it up. And the person was dissolved. That person became impure.
Could have thought he didn't touch it, so it didn't make a difference, but the
Exa-
fact that he lived it, same as the touch.
Exactly. And any riding gear upon which a man with a discharge will ride, it becomes unclean. So now we have a different category. We had mishkav, lying. We had sitting. We had now the spittle. And now we're having if you ride on something, right? 9, Rashi. Kol America of the riding equipment, even though he did not sit on it, but merely used it to give him support. Such as a saddle bow, right? Saddle bow, is that like the step to go onto the horse? Shikarim, it's called archon in French. Yeah? You become impure because of riding equipment. Ha'okov, the saddle of which the rider actually sits. Shikarim, it's called sela. Tame Tomas Meisha. It's impure because of the impurity of sitting. Others, to be on a saddle is like sitting. So that's not the chiddush. So then why does the Torah tell us that? You're sitting. It's like sitting on a bed, sitting on the chair. We already learned that. So you're sitting on the saddle, the same thing. Even if you're supported by anything of the saddle, like maybe like you touch the no, I don't think so. Your reins don't support you, but the foot, the little step, the little strap, the stirrups. That's it. Thank you. Right, that you put your foot on, and you only got support, so you're not sitting on it. You're already impure. That's the novelty of this verse. Okay. And whoever touches anything that is under him will become impure until the evening. Wow, this is all like heavy duty stuff that we need to know the distinctions. And all in Rambam we get it very detailed, but here it's very, very important. But I mean, it's all important. So whoever lifts, so we're talking now, he touches anything that's under him, he becomes unclean until the evening. To figure what that is. And whoever lifts them up shall immerse his garments and immerse himself in water, mikvah, and she remains unclean until the evening. Rashi in 10. Whoever touches anything that will be beneath him, shall zav, we're talking about the zav still, right? Bo, this verse comes to teach, Liman and teaches as about the riding equipment. The one who touches it should be impure. The ain ta'im, but does not require kibbutz begadim, but doesn't require immersion of garments. Right? Because it doesn't mention garments in this verse. only mentions he has to go to the mikvah, no garment. Because now who are we talking about? We're talking about the person who touches the riding equipment that the Zov leaned on, right? Got support from on, right?
So you sit on a chair.
Mishkav, and this is more strict than Mishkav Merkab over the laws of the riding equipment. Sorry?
So the Zav who sits on the chair, then the other person who touches the chair has to wash his clothes,
Yes,
right?
but by the saddle,
but not by
not
the saddle.
but not by the saddle, right? Because it's there for support. So it's less, I guess, because the way I'm understanding, because it becomes impure because it's support rather than on it. When you're sitting on a chair, you're sitting on the chair. When you're lying on the thing. Here we're talking. Yes, because a saddle is a chair. So the chiddush of saddle is support, not chair. Otherwise it's like a chair. It's your chair. It's your chair on the horse, right? That's what Rashi said, the previous Rashi, right?
Then why wouldn't the same rule apply?
Because it's only support. It's not. I'm not being supported on the chair right now. I'm sitting on a chair. But if I was only being supported by the chair, that's less of being engaged with it.
Yeah.
So therefore, the purity of the person, not the zov, right? The person who comes afterwards, right? And now is touching that which was only used for support, is only then go to the mikvah. Your clothing not.
Yeah.
But if you sat on it, that's much more. I mean, which we understand the distinction, right? You're not just being supported by the chair. You're sitting on a chair.
Says anything that was under him means only a saddle?
No, but you have to learn the previous verse. You have to see the connection with the verse.
From 9 or
Yeah, 10 is from 9. Yes.
so we assume that in 10 he's still talking about riding the
Saddle, yeah, but the Kiddush there, the novelty is it's support rather than sitting on. And 9, you have to learn 9. You have to make sure you, right, okay. So yeah, there he said that it's that saddle doesn't mean really saddle, it means support. That's the novelty, right? Because if it means sitting, well, what's the difference of a chair, or are you sitting on the saddle? It's the same idea. So saddle is coming to tell you because there's something more to a saddle. There's a support to the saddle. That support to the saddle is the novelty of how you make it impure. Even you only use the support, the zav only touched the support, it makes it now impure that the next person who touches it has to go to the mikvah, but not his clothing. Okay?
But isn't he really sitting on the horse?
If he sat on the horse, then it's not. Then it's the law of sitting.
The
Then
horse.
not for the horse, for the person who touches it next.
Okay, I don't want to digress, but then if someone touched the horse, then like.
We're talking about we didn't talk about the horse. We're then talking. Oh, let's learn what we're learning. Let's learn what we're learning. Okay. If he sat on the saddle, so then it's not saddle impurity, then it's sitting impurity. And then whoever touches it, the clothing has to be, okay? Is that clear? Okay. Okay, we're going to learn it again next year, God willing. And we're going to learn it in Rambam too, so you learn it in Rambam. We have a while that we're going to learn in Rambam. Okay, 11. Boy. Wow, I tell you, this is, I thank you all that you're here. Yeah, because if you weren't here, I wouldn't learn it the same way. So, just the clarity I'm having now is much more than I, and any person will touch it. Touch Hazav, Biyadav, Leishatav Amayim. So whoever the man with the discharge touches, right? Yadav, with his hands. And he didn't rinse his hands. So that person has to go into the mikvah and it's like his garments too. And he's unclean until the evening. Wait a minute. The discharge. I don't understand it. I'm not clear on this. What's it got to do with washing his hands? Okay, let's see Rashi 11. Yadav leishatav b'mayim, and he didn't rinse his hands in waters. Means leichalei tavel b'mitumos. It means he didn't go to the mikveh yet, right? I don't know. Let's see. Good question. And as long as he is not yet immersed himself in the mikvah, so there he's purified and thereby purified himself from his impurity. Even if he ceased from the discharge, the suffered Shiva, and he counted 7 consecutive days without a discharge, but he's lacking the immersion. Tame, he transmits impurity. Mitame, rather, he transmits impurity. And all of his impurities by all manner of transmission, as we mentioned. And the fact that the scripture expresses that tefilasa gufay shel zav, the immersion of the body of the zav, beloshen shtifas yadayim, with an expression of rinsing his hands, right? Right, exactly the question you're asking, Ariel Shleimer. This is to teach you means the inner parts of the organs, such as the cavities of the nose or the mouth, do not require the water to enter. They do not have to come in contact with the water of the mikvah during the immersion. Ella Ever Agoli, but only exposed limb, like hands. Wow. See how what Torah comes to teach you in every detail? Got it. You got it?
Why? So he doesn't have to.
Is a hand. Do you see my hand?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, but there's parts, but do you see inside my nose? No. So that's why the verse is coming to say hand. Any limb, when you immerse in water, it's the mikvah. You don't have to get the up your nose, or inside your ears. You don't have to get the water. The water doesn't have to go there. You might think it would. It doesn't. How do we know that? Because it says here, immerse your hands. It means really immerse your body, right? Remember, Torah is written in short form. So it's coming to tell me that when you do immerse in the mikvah, it has to be only the organs that are revealed that have to be immersed in the water, but something like up your nose doesn't have to be immersed.
Does revealed refer to external versus internal, or does it refer to what people can see versus what they can't?
The same idea. It's the same idea.
No, but it's not, because like
Well, it's up your nose.
is different than, like, your genitals, for instance.
No, genitals are revealed.
Okay.
They're
so
revealed. That has to be.
okay.
That has to be. Right.
Okay.
That has to be.
The difference between covered and uncovered.
Right. Yeah. Genitals are not covered. I mean, when you're naked, it's not covered, but inside your nose is not something that's revealed, right? You can't see it, but a limb that you could see, right? That's all. Not see when you're clothed, obviously.
External.
It's external, exactly. Okay, let's go 13. We gotta run over here, folks. Okay. And when the person will become from the zav, he will become pure. But he will count 7 days of Torah for his purity. The chibas begotten, and he has to wash his clothes, the Metzorah, and his flesh, b'mayim chayim, with living water, spring water to Torah, and becomes pure. What it means, it becomes clean. Doesn't mean he didn't become clean. It means he becomes clean from any discharge. And he didn't become clean to go to the mikveh yet. Right? He has to first become clean from discharge. Shivas Yamim L'Torah, so Shivas Yamim Tahirim Etumas Aziva has to be 7 days clean from the flow of the Zav. That he doesn't see a discharge for Kulam Ritzufim, and they have to be 7 consecutive days without interruption. 14. And the 8th day, Yikach Shtei Zayrim, he has to take. Oh, remember Yom Hashmini? When you had skin disease, right? You also had to add on the 8th day, Yikach Shtei Zayrim, you brought also then 2 turtle doves, 2 or 2 young doves. Lifnei Hashem, and he come before God, El Pesach Yom Ha'yed, and you give him to the Kohen. Right? What does it mean to the entrance of the tent? You're impure over here. Right? So it means property to Shar Nicanor, as we learned by I wonder if it means that. Because Lifnei Hashem, before God, what does that mean? And the Kohen will make them as one. What does it mean? One is a sin offering. And one is a burnt offering, completely burnt up. And the Kohen will bring an atonement before God for his discharge. Wow, was that amazing? Tomorrow we'll continue with this amazing